Hello everyone and welcome to my video lecture series. Okay, so our topic for today is a part called as plant hormones, okay, which are also called as phytohormones, and it is from the chapter plant growth and mineral nutrition. Okay, so let us start with the part. So basically everybody I think must be having a fair idea of what hormones are. Okay, so hormones are basically chemical substances in the body which bring about regulation of growth. Okay, so hormones are present in plants, they are present in animals. Okay, but today we are going to talk about plant hormones, which are also called as phytohormones. So let me write it down over here. Okay, so we are going to start with hormones. Okay, now please remember this word hormones. It was first of all discovered by a person called as Starling, and it was in animals. Okay, so if you, all those people who are giving entrance exams, it is a very important word to remember. Who discovered hormones? It was a person called as Starling. Okay, so I will write down the word over here. Starling was the person who discovered hormones. Okay, it was in animals. Now coming to the plant hormones. Okay, so plant hormones, they are also called as phytohormones. Okay, and these plant hormones, they can basically do three functions. Okay, they can promote growth, they can inhibit growth, and they can regulate growth. So let me write it down over here. Okay, so phytohormones which are present, or plant hormones which are present. Okay, these can be also called as growth regulators. I'm writing down over here. And why are they called as growth regulators? Because they can do three things, and I will write down over here. First thing that they can do is they can promote growth. That is the first thing, right? The second thing that these hormones can do is they can inhibit growth. What is the meaning of promotion and inhibition? Promotion means to start growth, inhibition means to stop growth. So in general they are regulating growth. Is this clear? So these are the two main functions of phytohormones or plant hormones, or they are also called as growth regulators. Is this clear? All right, now we have to write the different types of hormones which are present. Okay, we have to write down which hormones promote growth, which hormones inhibit growth. So let me write down over here. So growth promoters, if you want to talk about them, then growth promoters are basically two types. Okay, auxins, sorry, three types: auxins, cytokinins, and the third one is called as gibberellins. Okay, so these are the three types of promoters. These three hormones can cause growth in the plant. Okay, so cytokinins are also written as CK, whereas gibberellins are also written as GA. Okay, and under the growth inhibitors, so I will use a different color for that. Growth inhibitors are basically of two main types. Okay, they are ethylene, ethylene, and the second one is called as abscisic acid. So it is ABSCISSIC acid. Okay, so basically in this part, in today's lecture we are just going to complete auxins and gibberellins. Okay, and in the next lectures we are going to complete the remaining hormones. So we just have to study these 5 hormones in this chapter. Okay, and that is it for the 12th standard syllabus for this year. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Promoters are the hormones which will promote growth. Okay, they are of three types: auxins, cytokinins, and gibberellins. And inhibitors are of two types: ethylene and abscisic acid, which is also called as ABA. Is this clear? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub this off. Okay. Okay, I will increase the, I will rub this off. Now, where are these phytohormones or these plant hormones produced? What do you think? So these plant hormones which are there, they are basically produced in many different sites, but the thing is they are produced at one end and they show effect at the other end. Okay, please remember this. Just like in animals, or say in the case of human beings, so I can give you the example of two hormones. Okay, they are called as luteinizing hormone. Okay, so pituitary gland, there is a gland called as pituitary gland in our body, correct? And this pituitary gland is present in the skull. Okay, it is present in the depression of a bone called as sphenoid bone. The depression is called sella turcica. We will come to that in subsequent chapters. So this pituitary gland is present in the brain. Okay, and this pituitary gland releases two hormones. So there are many hormones which are released. I am giving you the examples of two hormones. First is called as luteinizing hormone, second is called as follicle stimulating hormone. So both these hormones are released by the pituitary, which is present in the skull or in the brain, and these two hormones go and show their effect in the reproductive organ. So they are released at one end, but they show the effect at some other end or some other place. The same is true for phytohormones. Phytohormones are released at one end and they show their effect at the other end. Please remember this. Okay, this is very, very important. It is not that if they are released at one side they will show the effect at that particular side. No, it's not like that. Okay, so I hope that is clear. The next thing that we are going to learn is who transports these hormones. Okay, so please remember phloem. Phloem is very, very important because phloem basically conducts these hormones across the plant, and the part of the phloem which does the conduction is called as phloem parenchyma. Please remember this. Okay, so phloem parenchyma is basically the type of phloem whose function is to transport the plant hormones. Okay, or they are also called as phytohormones across the plants. Is this clear? Okay, so with that we have just started with the introduction. I already told you what are the promoters, what are the inhibitors. Okay, we have seen all the hormones. Now we are actually going to start with the first hormone, and that is called as auxin. So let me rub this off and we will start with this. Now please remember, this topic is a fairly theoretical topic. Okay, so you will have to read this twice or thrice, even maybe you will have to re-listen or re-watch the lecture. Okay, because these are basically all facts, you will have to remember them. There is nothing much to understand, so pretty theoretical topic which you will have to read a lot so that you can remember it. Okay, all right, now coming to the first hormone which we are going to study, that hormone is called as auxin. So let me write it down. Okay, all right, now auxins, this word, okay, this was first used by a person called as Wendt. So the name of that person was F.W. Wendt. Okay, he was the first person to use this word. Which word was it? Auxin. Okay, now some important and interesting history regarding auxins. So auxins are the first plant hormones that were to be found. However, auxins were first found in a person who was suffering from a disease called as pellagra. So if you want, I will write it down over here. Okay, so the word is pellagra. Now pellagra is basically a disease in which a person has a serious skin disorder, and that skin disorder is due to a vitamin called as niacin. Niacin is vitamin B3. I will just write it down, this is extra information. So vitamin B3 serious deficiency causes a very severe skin disorder which is called as pellagra. In patients suffering from pellagra, the urine, when it was tested, then this urine had auxins in it. Okay, so this was the first case where auxins were isolated. However, later on, auxins, since they are plant hormones, they were also produced in plants, so they were also discovered in plants. Okay, and where were they discovered inside the plants? They were basically present in the meristematic tissue. So I will write it down over here. Now, what is meristematic tissue? Already in our last lecture we have studied about the parts of the root. In that there was a region called as meristematic region. I have told you meristematic region is a region which is having meristematic tissue or meristematic cells. These are continuously dividing cells, so it is a growing region. Okay, so normally this meristematic tissue, it is present in the apical tips of the plant. So I will just draw over here if you want. So if suppose I am drawing a stem over here, okay, if this is the stem, I'm sorry, so if this is the stem, right, and these are the branches which are coming off, then this area which I am pointing over here, this is called as the apex, or it is the top. Okay, so this is called as the apex region, and these sideways branches which are occurring, they are called as axillary or lateral regions. Please remember this. Okay, so axillary or lateral regions are the ones which are going sideways, and apex region or the apical region is the one which is present at the top. So normally this meristematic tissue is normally found in this apex region, and especially in tall trees. So the tall trees continue to grow vertically in height, but they do not grow much sideways. Why is that? Because this apical meristem, okay, apical meristem is the meristematic tissue present in the apical region. It keeps on dividing, so the plant grows in height. Is this clear? So it is basically found in meristematic tissue, or it is found in apical meristem. Okay, what is found there? Auxins is found. So I will write down the second word over here. Okay, apical meristem. Okay, now these auxins which are present in this meristematic tissue inside the plants, okay, they are transported to all the other parts of the plant, and the transportation which is occurring, it is called as the polar transport, or it is also called as the basipetal transport. So what I will do is I will write it down, very important words to remember. The transport which is happening, it is called as polar transport. Now what do you mean by polar transport? So polar transport is the transport which is occurring only in one direction. For example, the apical meristem, if it is present at the top, and this apical meristem is producing the plant hormone called auxin, then that auxin has to be transported to all the other parts of the plant. So the auxins are only going to travel in one direction, that is from top to bottom. So that is called as polar transport. If suppose I tell you that there is non-polar transport, then non-polar transport is transport which occurs in both the directions, which is bidirectional. So it can be from bottom to top or top to bottom, but this is always polar. Okay, also this transport is called as basipetal transport or basipetal transport. Basipetal transport is a transport which is occurring in the downward direction, which is occurring towards the base. I hope this is clear. So both these words are very important. So these auxins which are present in the meristematic tissue, okay, they are transported only in one direction, that is in the downward direction, that is called as polar transport or basipetal transport. Is this clear? Okay, so over here I have written all the important points. Now we come to what are basically auxins. Okay, what are the examples? So auxin is just a category of plant hormone. Okay, there are many different examples of auxins. Now the most frequently occurring auxin, okay, the naturally frequently occurring auxin, which is the best type of auxin in plants, it is basically called as, I will change my color so that it becomes much more obvious to you. So the naturally occurring auxin is called as indole 3 acetic acid, and it is also written as IAA, that is the abbreviation. Now IAA is indole 3 acetic acid. Indole acetic acid is the most common naturally occurring auxins present in plants. Is this clear? So you have to know the examples of auxin. This is a naturally existing auxin. There are other auxins which are synthetically produced or artificially produced in the laboratory. We will come to that later on. So please remember that indole 3 acetic acid is the most common and most beneficial naturally occurring auxin present in plants. So you have to remember this word. I will again underline it: indole 3 acetic acid. Okay, now this indole 3 acetic acid is basically produced from a precursor which is called as tryptophan. So I will write it down over here. This is basically produced from tryptophan. What is the meaning of tryptophan? Tryptophan, I think everybody must be knowing, it is an amino acid. Now tryptophan is a precursor. Means what is a precursor? So anything from which that substance is formed, that original thing is called as a precursor. For example, in respiration, suppose if I write down over here sideways that glucose, when we study glycolysis, so glucose gets converted into glucose 6 phosphate, correct? And then I write down glucose 6 phosphate gets converted into fructose 6 phosphate. So here can I say that glucose is the precursor for glucose 6 phosphate? Yes, because glucose 6 phosphate has been formed from glucose. Similarly, I can say that glucose 6 phosphate is the precursor of fructose 6 phosphate. So precursor is anything from which that particular substance is formed. So indole 3 acetic acid is formed from which precursor? It is formed from tryptophan. So tryptophan will give rise to indole 3 acetic acid. Okay, so I think I will rub this off. Okay, and now what is the function? Suppose if we talk about indole 3 acetic acid, what is the function of indole 3 acetic acid? See, there are many function of auxins. We'll be learning about them in the next part, okay, in today's lecture. But the main function is basically cell elongation and cell division. Please remember, these are the two main functions of auxins. So I will write down over here the two main functions of auxins are, I'm sorry, functions are cell elongation and cell division. What do you mean by cell elongation? Cell elongation means the cell increases in length, so that will also cause growth, and at the same time it will also multiply, it will also divide. So both these factors are responsible for growth. So please remember, auxin is a growth promoter. I have already told you this, it will help in growth. Okay, so is this clear? Now there are certain synthetic auxins which are also produced artificially in the laboratory. If you want, I will write down the names over here of synthetically produced auxins. Okay, so synthetic auxins, the first example which comes to mind is an auxin called as indole butyric acid. Okay, it is written as IBA. I will write down the name over here: indole butyric acid. The next is called as 2,4-D. Okay, now that is 2,4-dichlorophenolic acid. So the short form for that is over here. So I will write down 2,4-dichlorophenolic acid. So these are all synthetic auxins. Please remember, if you want, I will highlight this using a different color. Synthetic auxins are not naturally produced in the plant, they are produced in the laboratory, but they function just like natural auxins. Okay, so second example was 2,4-D, first was IBA. The third example, if you want, it is naphthalene acetic acid. So that is written as NAA. Okay, naphthalene acetic acid. So these are the three examples of auxins which are synthetically produced. What do you mean by synthetically produced? That means they are present, they are not present naturally in the plant, they are produced artificially and they will perform as auxins. Is this clear? So guys, just have a look at what we have studied up till now. Let us revise, and then we will come to the next part, which is how does the auxins affect the physiology of plant, how do the auxins affect physiology of plant, and what are their applications. Very important part. Why are we studying these hormones? Because they have applications in agriculture, so we have to study that anyway. So just let us revise what all we have done. So the first thing that we learned in auxins was the person who first introduced the word. His name was F.W. Wendt. right? Okay, auxins were first found out in the person, okay, who was suffering from a disease called pellagra. So his urine sample contained that. Okay, so you will ask me, why was it found in that person? Because in that condition auxins might be produced, okay, in that person. However, in plants, where was it found? It was first found in meristematic tissue or apical meristem. I have already told you, apical meristem is the part of the tree which is growing and which is at the apex, okay, and in that, in large quantities, the auxins are found. Okay, then these auxins are transported to other parts of the plant by which type of transport? Basipetal transport, going towards the bottom. Single directional, unidirectional, it is also called as polar transport, please remember. Then we come to the most commonly occurring natural auxin, which is called as indole 3 acetic acid, which is IAA. Okay, then we learned about the functions. What are the two functions? The two functions are cell elongation, cell division, very simple. Okay, so basically it is a growth promoter. And finally we learned about artificially or synthetically produced auxins, which are IBA, indole butyric acid. Okay, the next was called as naphthalene acetic acid, and the third one was called as 2,4-dichlorophenolic acetic acid. I hope this is clear. Okay, so that is the part which is related to the artificially occurring auxins. Okay, now we'll start with the next part, which is about physiological effect of auxins and their application. So what I will do is I will rub this off. Okay, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first write down all the physiological effects and the applications over here. Okay, and after that I'm going to explain them, because this is a fairly theoretical topic, so there is a chance that if I go on explaining each point while I am writing, I might forget the other points. I will write down all the points first, then I will explain them to you. So I will give the heading over here. Okay, physiological effects of auxins and their applications. So we are studying the first hormone, which is auxin. We have already studied certain information or the general theory regarding auxins. Now let us study about how they actually affect the plants and what are their applications. So I will write down all the applications first, then I will explain them to you. Okay, so the first application is cell enlargement. Okay, and also I have told you cell division. The second application is called as apical dominance, so I'm going to explain that, right? Then the third application is growth of, so I'm just writing down points over here, I will explain all these points. Stem. Then next is, it is used in tissue culture. All right, then auxins also help in formation of adventitious roots. Adventitious, or they are also called as fibrous roots. Okay, then auxins like 2,4-D, they are used as synthetic herbicides. I'm going to explain all of this, don't worry. Okay, then the next thing is they are responsible for parthenocarpy. So I will just scroll this so I have more space to write, right? Okay, so they induce parthenocarpy, that is seedless fruits are formed. Okay, then they also promote cell division in the cambium region. Okay, cambium is present between xylem and phloem, and also they help in differentiation of xylem and phloem. All right, then they have a dual function. So in lesser concentration, so I will write down over here, lower concentration causes root elongation, okay, and if they are used in higher concentration, then they cause shoot elongation, that is stem elongation. All right, then they also are helpful in the cutting method. I will explain what the cutting method is. Okay, so I'm just writing down the points. There are a lot of applications, I will explain all of them, so I'm just writing this down so that I don't forget any point while explaining. So that is the cutting. Okay, then foliar spray is used. Okay, and foliar spray is normally used for inducing flowering in the plants. Okay, so that is foliar spray. Next point I'm going to write over here is prevents abscission, layer formation. Okay, I will explain all this. Okay, and last is it increases respiration rate and breaks seed dormancy. So see, I have written down, I think I have written down all the points. Now let us come to each point. These are all the physiological effects and applications of auxins. Okay, so I hope the earlier part about the introduction of auxins is clear. Now let us start with the physiological effects of auxins and their applications. Okay, so the first effect which is there, okay, the first part which is there is, so I should rub this off, I think. Okay, so the first application which is there of auxins is cell enlargement and cell division. I told you they increase the length of the cell and also cause cell division. The second point is they cause apical dominance. Now what is apical dominance? The same thing that I told you. The apex part of the plant grows when it has got meristematic tissue. So what happens is when the apex or the upper part begins to grow, it stops the growth of the lateral or the axillary parts. Okay, so if the meristematic tissue is present in apical region more, then it will cause the tree to grow vertically upwards, but at the same time it will inhibit the axillary branches or the lateral branches to grow, and this is called as apical dominance. So because of that, if you see very tall trees, they are growing vertically well, but they do not grow horizontally much. So that is called as apical dominance, where meristematic tissue in the apical region prevents the growth of the sideway branches. Okay, that is called as apical dominance. Next we come to the physiological property, that is auxins are important to increase the growth in both roots and stem. Okay, so they are responsible for both growth and stem. Also, next part I have written tissue culture. So what is tissue culture? Tissue culture is basically a method in which you take a single cell. So I will just draw it over here. Okay, and this single cell can be grown into a tissue or an organ. Okay, and this is done artificially. So just imagine that you have a single plant cell, okay, and you want to form an entire plant from that plant cell. So if I take that single cell and I keep it in some apparatus, any artificial medium, and I give it enough food, I give it enough nutrients, gases which the cell requires to divide, then that cell will begin to divide and it will form a multicellular structure. It will form a tissue will form an organ, and finally an entire plant will grow. So this is artificially I am producing a plant from a single cell. Same thing can happen with animals also. So you might have heard of certain organs which are produced artificially, for example liver. Okay, so single liver cell can give rise to an entire liver organ artificially. So this methodology is called as tissue culture, where artificially you can use a single cell to produce a tissue or organ. So how is it used in tissue culture? How are auxins used in tissue culture? Very simple, because auxins promote cell division. So if you take a single cell and if you add auxins, if you add the plant hormone auxin to it, then that cell will begin to divide quickly. So it will quickly divide. And in tissue culture, please remember this mass of cells which are formed after dividing, they are called as callus. We will be learning about this in the chapter, okay, in subsequent chapters. And this single cell which is taken for tissue culture, it is called as explant. Now this is not given in this chapter, okay. If you want to search for this word explant, it is not used in this chapter, please remember. So whenever I take a single cell for tissue culture, that single cell is called explant, Then when it keeps on growing in whatever medium I am growing, that growth or that multiplied cells mass, that mass of cells which has multiplied, it is called callus, and callus will finally go and it will form into a new organ. Please remember this, and that is called organogenesis. So I will do that, I will write it down over here. It is not given in the textbook. This callus will still divide, okay, and it will form even a larger structure which is present, and it will form an organ. So that organ may be leaf, root, stem, or the entire plant, and this is called as organogenesis. Organo is organ and genesis is formation. So this is what happens in tissue culture. Is this clear? So why are auxins used in tissue culture? Because they can easily promote cell division. Okay, cell division will increase when you use auxins. Is that clear? Okay, next point that I have written down is formation of adventitious roots. I think everybody knows there are two types of root: taproot, which is a more advanced type of root, and the second is fibrous or adventitious roots. Okay, what is the difference between them? Very simple. Tap roots have a single primary root which grows downwards, and from the primary roots there arise lateral or secondary roots. Correct? Adventitious roots or fibrous roots are weaker roots. All the roots are of the same type, are of the same length, and there is no primary root, there are no secondary roots. So adventitious or fibrous roots are increased when you add auxins to the plant, so they cause growth of adventitious or fibrous roots. Next is synthetic herbicides. What do you mean by herbicide? Herbicide is any insecticide, sorry, herbicide is any what do you call it? It is any chemical which will kill an unwanted crop. Okay, what is weed? Weed is an unwanted crop. Okay, so certain herbicides which are produced, they are produced from auxins. So what they do is, those auxins will protect the tree that you want to keep, and it will kill the unwanted crop. For example, here I have written 2,4-D. So dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, I have already told you that is a full form. So that 2,4-D, which is a synthetic auxin, what it does is it kills all the dicot weeds, dicotyledon weeds which you don't want. It will kill them, and your monocot plants which you want to save, it will save them. For example, if you are growing jawar is monocot, and there are certain dicot weeds which are growing around it. So those dicot weeds, they will also absorb the water and nutrition from the soil, so jawar will get less nutrition. So you don't want that to happen, so you want to kill the dicot weeds, dicot unwanted plants. So you can use certain auxins which will protect the plant that you want and kill the other ones. So that is called as a herbicide, or it is also called as a weedicide. Okay, so example given is 2,4-D, dichlorophenoxyacetic acid. Is this clear? So this is an application. Next application that we are seeing over here is called parthenocarpy. Parthenocarpy means production of seedless fruits. So you must have seen nowadays you get the grapes which are seedless. Okay, then fruits like lemon, oranges, grapes, bananas, all these fruits which are produced without seeds, that process is called parthenocarpy. So parthenocarpy is production of seedless fruits. It is economically much more advantageous because people would love to buy things which are without seeds. Seeds nikalne nahi padenge. Okay, so for parthenocarpy, for inducing parthenocarpy or to produce seedless fruits, auxins can be used. Okay, please remember. Okay, so parthenocarpy is a condition in which a fruit is formed without the seeds. Is this clear? So they are called seedless fruits. Next is promote cell division in the cambium region. What is cambium? So if you remember, basically we have these three layers. Okay, so the outermost layer, so suppose if I am drawing this structure, this outermost ring which is present, that is the ring which is present of the vascular tissue called as phloem. Okay, inside the phloem is present the cambium. So I will draw it with this yellow color. So this yellow colored ring which you can see, that is called as the cambium, and inside the cambium is present the xylem. So this innermost blue colored ring that you can see is of xylem. So what happens is, basically auxins also cause an increase in growth of cambium. So if cambium increases in size, it will easily separate the xylem and phloem. See, if cambium is absent, then xylem and phloem are attached to each other because cambium is present between phloem and xylem. So if auxins are causing an increase in division of cambium, obviously the phloem and auxins will be separated, so it causes proper differentiation of phloem and xylem. You can easily differentiate, okay, this is phloem, this is xylem, and this is cambium. Okay, so it also causes division in the cambium, and hence it separates the xylem and the phloem. Are you getting it? Does anybody remember the function of cambium? Cambium helps in secondary growth. What is secondary growth? It helps in increases the thickness of a part. So primary growth is when the tree increases in height, and secondary growth is when the stem of that same tree it increases in diameter. For example, banyan tree, when it is very young, the stem is having a very less diameter. When it grows, it increases in diameter, it also increases in height. So increase in height is called primary growth, increase in diameter is called secondary growth. Secondary growth is caused by cambium. Is this clear? Okay, next is, our next point is when auxins are used in lower concentration. So if they are used in lower quantity, they will promote root growth, because we have already seen that auxins can cause an increase in growth of both roots and stem. So when will roots be grown, when will shoots be grown? So very simple, if you take auxins in lesser quantities and if you add them to the plant, okay, then what will happen is it will cause the root to grow. However, if you take more quantity of auxins and you add them to the plant, then they will cause the shoot to grow. Very simple. So lesser quantities, the root of the plant will grow, more quantity, shoot of the plant will grow. Okay, so in this way you can see that auxins can be used. The auxins which are present in plants, they can be removed from the plants, okay, extracted from the plants, and they can be used. So that is very important. Coming to the other functions which are there, or the other what do you say, applications which are there. Now there is a technique which is called as cutting. Okay, anybody knows what is the meaning of cutting in plants? Very simple. What you do is, you already have a plant, you cut any part of that plant. Okay, I will give you an example. If I have a potato plant, what I can do is I remove a potato, and you must have seen that on the potato there are buds present, those white color buds. So if I just cut a small size of potato, small slice of potato having a bud, and if I plant it in the soil, then that part will give rise to new roots and it will give rise to a new plant. So that method is called as cutting. Another example, if you have seen a pineapple, the green colored part which is present, if I separate that from the yellow part, and that green color, if I put it on the soil, slightly inside the soil, then it will give rise to roots and it will grow into a new plant. So this method is called as cutting. So whenever you are using this cutting method, and if you add auxins, then the root development is faster. Okay, so if I suppose take the pineapple, I cut that green part which is present, I put it in the soil and I let it grow naturally, then suppose if it is taking 10 days to form roots, instead of that, if I add auxins to that soil mixture, then maybe in 5 or 6 days it will give rise to roots. So auxins will help in quick formation of roots in the case of cutting method. I hope cutting is clear. Cutting is basically where you cut any part of the plant and you grow it separately in the soil to form a new plant. Okay, the next is about foliar spray. What is the meaning of foliar spray? So I have written it down over here, I will underline it. Okay, what is the meaning of foliar spray? First of all, the word foliar, it comes from foliage, F-O-L-I-A-G-E. Foliage is leaves. Foliar spray means basically you take a spray, okay, you take a spraying bottle and you spray whatever liquid is present in that bottle onto the leaves directly. Okay, so basically foliar sprays can be used as fertilizers. So I will give you an example. Normally, how do we use fertilizers? We take the fertilizers, okay, we mix it with the soil or we add it to the soil, okay, and then the roots will absorb. However, foliar spray fertilizers are the fertilizers which are mixed in water and that spray is directly put on the leaves. That fertilizer is directly sprayed on the leaves. So now what happens is the leaves will directly absorb the fertilizers. Okay, so you must be knowing that leaves have openings called stomata. Also epidermis is present. So that epidermis and stomata absorbs that liquid, so that fertilizer will directly enter the leaf. So that is called as a foliar spray. Okay, so it is not only the roots which can absorb substances. If you spray something on the leaves, there is a chance that the stomata and the epidermis of the leaf will absorb it. So now what is foliar spray used for? So in basically botanical in plants which are flowering plants, okay, show plants. So if you use foliar spray and if you add auxins to them, then since auxin causes a growth, right, it is a growth promoter, so the flowering increases, the flowering will happen quickly. So if suppose you have a plant which is not flowering quickly, and if you use auxins, you put it in water or any suitable medium, and if you spray it on the leaf, then that plant will begin to flower quickly. So it is also used as a foliar spray. I hope the word foliar spray is clear. Foliar means foliage, foliage means green leaves, so directly you spray it on the leaves will absorb it. Okay, then we are coming towards the end of this part. The next part is prevents abscission. What is the meaning of abscission? We have already studied one of the hormones, okay, abscisic acid. We will come to that later on. Abscission is basically when parts of the plant begin to fall off. Best example is, have you seen that leaves which are initially green, later on as they become old, they become yellowish or brownish in color and then they fall off? Correct. So that is called abscission. So abscission layer formation means that parts of the plant will become weak and they will fall off. So when you add auxins to the plant, when you supply additional auxin to the plant, what happens is this abscission layer is delayed. Okay, so it keeps the plant more lively, it prevents the aging period. I hope you are getting it. So agar suppose if I say that a plant will begin to form the abscission layer in say 2 months, and if you are adding auxins to it, then that will be delayed. Say for 3 months the abscission layer will not be formed. So if say after 2 months normally the plants will begin to shed its leaves, then after adding of auxins it will shed its leaves after 3 months. So basically that decaying or that aging process of the plant is delayed. Okay, you can also say that the senescence is delayed. Okay, I have not written the word over here. There is a word called as senescence. Senescence means aging. So auxins basically delay the aging. The plants live for more. The abscission layer or the old layer or the layer which falls off, that is delayed. So because of that, why is this important is, see, fruits also fall off trees, right? So fruits when they are ripe, you can say that they form the abscission layer and then that part falls off and you can eat those fruits. So when you add auxins, then again that abscission layer will be delayed, so fruits will not fall off quickly. Suppose if the fruits are ready by 6 months and after 6 months the fruits are falling from the tree because of that abscission layer, if you add extra auxins, maybe the fruits will be there for 8 months or 9 months. Okay, initially 6 months, 2-3 months more, because the abscission layer is delayed. What is the meaning of abscission layer? It is a layer which is basically becoming weak and it falls off. Even the flowers, you must have noticed, after they become weak they fall off, the leaves fall off. So that is all because of abscission layer. It is also called as senescence or it is also called as aging. So that is delayed by auxins. Okay, and last point is, auxins when they are added to plants, they increase the respiration rate. So the plants take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide in normal respiration, but that frequency or that pace increases when auxins are added. So respiration becomes much more efficient, more oxygen is taken in, more carbon dioxide is given out in that same unit time. And it also breaks seed dormancy. What is seed dormancy? See, if a seed is lying in soil, okay, and if the environmental conditions are not proper, then what will happen? Do you think that seed will germinate? No, it will not germinate. Why? Because the environmental conditions are not favorable. So what happens is that seed will stay like that in the dormant condition, means it will not give rise to any root or shoot, it will just stay like that. That is called dormant, rest condition. And when the environmental conditions become favorable, the climate becomes favorable, then it will germinate. So suppose if you have a seed that is not easily germinating, or it is just remaining like that, it is remaining dormant, and if you add auxins to that soil surrounding the seed, then it will break the dormancy, means that seed will easily germinate. One more example, suppose if I have a seed, I plant the seed, suppose if it takes 2 weeks for the seed to germinate, and if I want that plant to grow quickly, So what can I do is I can put the seed in the soil, I can add auxins. So now instead of 2 weeks, the plant or the seed will germinate maybe in 6 days or 7 days, in 1 week. Why? Because auxins breaks dormancy. Auxin breaks that stationary phase or that inactive phase of seeds, and it causes the seed to grow faster. Is this clear? So with that, friends, we have basically completed the first hormone, okay, which is a growth regulator and which is called as auxins. In our next lecture we are going to start with gibberellins. Okay, there are a lot of applications, that is why I have only completed this one hormone. Okay, just let us have a quick look at all the applications again. See, I am revising this again and again so that at least right now when you are watching the lecture, it is going into your head, okay, and it is being bombarded to you for quite a number of times, so it will be easy for you to remember. Okay, so first of all, the effects, physiological effects, are the effects which the hormone has on the plant. Correct? What are the effects? Cell enlargement we have seen, right? Cell division we have seen. Okay, then apical dominance. I told you the apical bud, when it begins to grow, it stops the growth of the lateral or the sideway buds. So the branches do not grow much, but the height of the plant grows. That is called apical dominance. Then auxins cause an increase in growth of both roots and stem. So it is equally helping both roots and stem. Then what are the applications? Some of the applications are, it is used in tissue culture, because in tissue culture you need cell division, so auxins increase the rate of cell division, so callus formation or the tissue formation increases, that rate increases, so it is used over there. Then it is used in formation of quick roots. I have already told you, lower concentration if you use auxins, it will give rise to formation of roots. Higher concentration if you use auxins, it gives rise to the formation of shoot. So if you want to form roots, you take that auxin in smaller quantities and it will give rise to formation of adventitious or fibrous roots. Please remember, not tap roots. Okay, next is, some of them are used as herbicides. You want to kill the unwanted crops, you use them as herbicides. Best example is 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, which is used as a dicot weedicide. So it will kill all the unwanted dicot plants and it will protect the monocot plant that you want to protect. I had given the example of jawar. Okay, next is, you can produce seedless fruits by adding auxins. So seedless fruits are the fruits where no seeds are present, so economically they are much more viable, much more beneficial. Many fruits are produced by parthenocarpy or through seedless methods, for example lemon, grapes, banana, orange, etc. Okay, cell division, you know, cambium region which is present between the phloem and xylem. So the cambium region keeps on dividing because of more auxins, and because of that there is a proper differentiation or separation of xylem and phloem. Please remember, outermost layer is phloem, innermost layer is xylem, and between them the cambium is present. So if the cambium grows, the xylem and phloem are much more separated. So that is how it works. Okay, next point that we have seen is lower concentration. I already told you, it causes an growth in the root region, and if I use it in higher concentration, it causes a growth in the shoot region. Next is cutting method. Cutting method is basically when you cut any part of the plant and you grow it separately in the soil, it grows into a new plant. So the root formation in that cut part, it is greatly increased. Okay, so that is because of auxins. So the roots which would take normally a longer time to grow from those cut parts, they will grow much more quickly because of addition of auxins. Okay, next is foliar spray. I told you, this is a spray which is directly sprayed on the leaves will absorb it. So this is mainly used for fastening the flowering process. Okay, all the show plants, all the ornamental plants which have flowers, decorative plants, so in those plants if you use a spray having auxins, the leaves will absorb that and the auxins will also increase. So see, the auxins are increasing cell division, they are causing a growth in stem, root, and they are also causing a growth in flower and fruits. Please remember this. Okay, so obviously for all these applications you will require different amount of auxins, that is not given in the book, but auxins can help you in achieving all these things. So flowering can also be done. Next is, it delays aging, or it prevents the formation of an abscission layer which is quick. Abscission layer is the layer which becomes detached from the plant. It may be a fruit, it may be a leaf, it may be a stem. So that is the layer which has become old and it detaches from the plant and it falls off. Okay, best example is yellow leaves or brown leaves, they fall off. So that is delayed when you add auxins. So senescence, this word I will also repeat when we are studying the next hormone. So senescence is aging, it delays aging, so the plant life is prolonged, it is increased. Next is increases respiration rate, more efficient utilization of oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide takes place, and it breaks the seed dormancy. The seed which is not germinating, which is just lying like that, if you add auxins to that soil, it will germinate quickly. Is this clear? So all these are the physiological effects and applications of auxins, and with that we have completed our first part, okay, of this plant hormones or phytohormones or growth regulators, which is about auxins. Please don't forget, auxin is a plant growth promoter, it will promote growth. Which are the other two promoters? Cytokinins, and the other one was called as gibberellins. The next is gibberellins or gibberellins, which we'll be studying in the next lecture. Okay, after that we'll be studying cytokinins and the plant inhibitor, plant growth inhibitors, the hormones which stop growth, they are abscisic acid, okay, and ethylene. We'll be studying that. So that is the only part. So over here all the applications that we have learned, that is when you add these hormones externally. See, these hormones are already present in the plant, but if you want to get all these effects, for example root growth, flowering, stem growth, then you have to additionally add these hormones from outside. Please remember, otherwise you will think all this is naturally going on in the plant. It is present naturally in the plant, but if you want all these applications to occur, then you need to take additional hormones and add them externally in the soil or spray them. So is that clear? So we have finished with auxins. If you have still not subscribed to my channel, kindly do so. Share this lecture, okay, comment please, that would be a huge help. It would boost me and it would boost my channel a lot, okay. And that's the end of this lecture. Thanks a lot.